Aaron Rodgers. Out of all the quarterbacks in the playoffs last year, who was the worst quarterback?
Steelers they've had a history of some bad quarterbacks.
No, I'm just saying last year, out of all the teams that made the playoffs, who had the worst quarterback, numbers wise?
Well, it had to be who was it that went to the Jets? It was Fields, wasn't it?
I said that went to the playoffs, not in the NFL. Out of all the teams that made the playoffs last year, who was the worst quarterback by the numbers?
Was it? Steelers they didn't even make the damn playoffs.
No, the Steelers made playoffs.
This year. You talking about this past year?
I'm talking about this year and last year. I'm talking about 2025 and 2024.
I don't know.
One year was Russell Wilson. He was the biggest piece of garbage in the NFL. I didn't say garbage. I said garbage. And quarterback in the playoffs, in the whole playoffs, out of 16 teams.
But if you take a step back, didn't you see history repeat itself? Russell Wilson got in there. He was lighting things up. He was throwing nice passes
for 5 games. And then he lost 5 in a row.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And look at the numbers.
But that doesn't fall on just the quarterback. You can't blame that on the quarterback.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, you can't blame that on the quarterback. Let me ask you this. He was playing with a top defense in those games that he won. A lot of his percentages wasn't even over 50%.
Hey, so you're telling me that Mike Tomlin with the Steelers didn't go stagnant? What are you telling me? They should have kept him?
I'm telling you, he was the worst quarterback that went to the playoffs last year, and Aaron Rodgers was the worst quarterback in the playoffs this year. What I'm saying, I'm making a point. How do you washed up pieces of garbage ass quarterbacks?
I don't think it's all quarterback play.
Well, apparently I watch every Steeler game from beginning to end.
They had injuries, but the one common denominator, whether it was Russell Wilson or Aaron Brooks or Mason Rudolph or Fields, you can go back. The one common denominator is Mike Tomlin. With Roethlisberger, they went. Remember that? I think it was 17. They were 10-0.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew Stevie Ray. I knew they weren't that good of a team. They were winning close games. That could have gone either way.
But I understand and I agree with you. Everything you're saying, I agree with. But what I'm saying is, whether it was the coach, you can always come back to the coach when you don't have successful seasons. But what I'm saying is, name me a coach in the NFL in the last 10, 15 years that can win when you don't have the best team. In that division, all the teams are pretty good.
But you can't tell me that offensive line quit protecting either of those quarterbacks.
I can tell you they were still winning with them.
Oh, my God. They had some injuries. Something happened. And to me, it comes to coaching. I'm not making adjustments. They come out at halftime and they play the same way.
Okay, when you get in the playoffs, Cruz, you're playing the best of the best. And if you don't have the firepower like who you're playing against, with a Russell Wilson or a Aaron Rodgers, you ain't winning. I don't care who the coach is. It can be Vince Lombardi. I don't care who the coach is. Look at the Dallas Cowboys, 30-something years, ain't got close to nothing. And they keep going through coach after coach with talent.
That has to come to an end for every coach and for the Steelers.
Oh, no. I'm not arguing that either. What I'm saying is, how do you ask a coach to win when he doesn't have the horses? Because it's the GM that is supposed to look at all the Steelers' number 1 draft choices in the last 20 years. And then look at the ones before that. They were hitting on them. Then all of a sudden, they wasn't.
Jeff Darnold is the best quarterback in the league.
Who?
That's a good team. They got a heck of a defense. The play calling is good.
Yeah, but look at the guy pulling the trigger. That's my point. You're gonna tell me Aaron Rodgers a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers can compete with a 28, 29-year-old Patrick Mahomes?
Well, the magic with Mahomes is gone.
Well, that's now. I'm talking about for the last 7 years.
What I'm saying, Stevie Ray, about the Steelers
Mm-hmm.
is just like you said about Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, he played too long.
Mm-hmm.
He kept Tomlin too long. They didn't have the winning formula. Yeah, they didn't have players, but there's a lot of teams that don't have direct players.
Well, my point to that, I agree with you 100%. But what I'm saying is, how does a man win when he has inferior? Name me a coach. You still ain't did that. And we'll move on to something else after this. Name me a coach in this league ever that's won consistently for 19 years, even when he didn't have the horses to do it.
Well, not too many of them have.
Because the parity in the league is different, just like basketball. The parity, it ain't 5 or 6 good 8 teams no more. It's 20 to 21, 22 good teams. So you're going up against somebody that can beat you every single solitary week. And no coach in the last 20 years has won consistently. No coach but Mike Tomlin.
Well, he has the same record as McCarthy, doesn't he?
Why was McCarthy fired from Green Bay?
They didn't perform. Probably Aaron Rodgers too, right?
Okay, and then what did they do? They got rid of both of them.
Yeah.
They got rid of both of them. I'm not saying Mike Tomlin should. What I'm saying is Mike Tomlin ain't never had the bottom fall out like Bill Belichick or Mike McCarthy or a lot of these other. The bottom never fell out.
Well, he had Ben Roethlisberger the majority of those.
But for the last 5, 6 years, he hasn't had Ben Roethlisberger, and he's still winning with people like Russell Wilson that nobody wants. He's not even starting now.
Yeah, but the end of the season looked a lot different than the beginning of the season.
But the first 5, remember the first 6 games, Justin Fields was the quarterback. And the 2 games that Justin Fields lost, both were by field goals. So if you ask me, he should have never he should have never been relieved of his starting position. But I know Russell Wilson came in to start. It was in his contract. That's why they had to put him back in.
He did just fine. He was lighting them up.
Yeah. No. He was winning. Okay, I'm going to pull his stats up. You want me to pull his stats up right now? And want me to show you how desperate and pedestrian they were?
Oh, my God.
Yes.
The first 4 or 5 games?
Yes. 2 games, he was under 50% passing. I still know this stuff off the top of my head, bro.
How many did they win?
They won 4 or 5. He made some big plays to win the game, and that's all everybody remembers. But as far as being a competitive quarterback, he wasn't. The Steelers are my team, but I don't sugarcoat it, man. I know what I'm looking at. He knows what he was looking at. That's why they let him go after the season.
Well,
and then he lost 5 in a row.
I will tell you, there's no doubt about that, Steve Ray, but I think that there was some other things that happened with that offense.
It was.
That contributed to when you rush a quarterback, he's not going to be the same quarterback. He's not going to have the time. Yes, these guys are older. They can't run. They're not as mobile as they used to be. But same thing happened to Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers, his hand was hurt. He had a couple more guys on the offensive line go down. They only have one good receiver. When DJ Metcalf was out, trying to think, their other wide receivers got great hands.
I think a lot of the receiving core, and I'm gonna bring up an example for that and let people know I don't believe that, and what the narrative is out there with television. When Aaron Rodgers got hurt, that he hurt in. Mason Rudolph off the Mason
Step back real quick.
with the same guys that he was throwing the ball down the field.
When you don't utilize your tight end, whose fault is it? It's the play caller's fault, right? Offensive coordinator, coach, head coach.
Well, it all depends.
They don't use their tight ends. They can't get open.
Well, you're talking about Frymouth. They didn't use him a lot this year because Aaron Rodgers can't get the ball down the field. That's not the tight end fault. That's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, you know who led the team in receiving?
The running back.
Yes. What does that tell you? People try to put it on order. The receivers can't get separation. No. This sucker got to get rid of the ball real quick. And he throws the ball side on. So everybody's too tall in the middle. That's why he goes to the backs all the time.
Yeah, well, look, I like Calvin Austin. He's a talent, but he's too small.
Who?
DK Metcalf. If it was DK Metcalf and George Pickens, they got themselves a different story there. But and maybe that's why they drafted the guy from the Colts. But they need more than one weapon. That one weapon was DK Metcalf.
Okay, let me ask you this. Pittman coming over from the Colts. If Aaron Rodgers is still there, you're going to see the exact same thing.
He might come back, right?
I hope not. I didn't want him from the beginning. I would have rather Mason Rudolph start the season.
Mason Rudolph. I like Mason Rudolph, and I thought there would be hope for him, but when they put him in, it's like everybody felt bad because, man, they got rid of him, and then he came back. He won a couple of games.
Last year before last, Mason Rudolph took him to the playoffs.
Yeah, well.
And like I said, the game that Aaron Rodgers got hurt in, Mason Rudolph came in and won the game. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback. I'm not saying he's a very good quarterback. I'm saying he's better than Aaron Rodgers for that offense because he gets rid of the ball quicker.
But when Aaron Rodgers went down, the first play with Mason Rudolph when they put him in, he threw an interception.
Oh no, that was the other game. I'm talking about the game before that. He got hurt. Remember, he got hurt twice. That game, he came back into the game. The one I'm talking about, Mason Rudolph played the rest of the fourth quarter. It was 2 times. I know the one you're talking about. And yes, he did throw an interception. But I'd rather see a guy throwing an interception being him putting himself out there being aggressive than somebody throwing an interception because somebody tipped the ball because you're throwing side on. That's just me.
If you had to go to war and you had a healthy Aaron Rodgers, you would do just fine. We're praising
What?
winning.
Oh my God!
You apparently you ain't listened to my podcast, brother. I've been talking about the dude all season. I'm the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan back in the day, but I'm gonna just be honest, brother. This dude ain't got nothing in the tank no more. Just like Russell Wilson, they ain't got nothing left, man. I'm sorry.
Maybe down the stretch, but I mean, this conversation started out with the head coach.
Right.
I think they're going to do better. It can't be worse. What are they going to have?
Wait a minute.
What is the difference if they're above 500 and they don't make the playoffs, or they get beaten the first round of the playoffs, or not making the playoffs? One game, right?
Okay. Wait a minute. If you don't change everything, you're right. But if you do change everything and still do that, then something's wrong.
Yeah. Well. I know the GM's going to take the brunt of the hit, but
Omar Khan.
On that field, you got a coach, and that coach, he's a good leader in terms of.
And he's been fired twice. Let me ask you this: if you're a car owner, and you want a crew chief, you're going to be looking for something much better than you got, or something that's the same as what you got. Because if you're looking for something that's the same, why change crew chiefs?
But you can't underestimate chemistry and putting.
No, I'm just asking you as a former car owner.
Well, I'll tell you that you can take 2 different guys. You can have 2 guys that work together.
Yeah.
That may not work.
Right.
In fact, we had that last year.
Okay.
There's a specific funny car team. And they changed one guy out.
Okay.
They already have better results.
Okay.
You can have a yes man. You get that? Mike Tomlin.
What was that again? I didn't understand.
I hear what you're saying. It's a lateral move in terms when you look at their record, the amount of Super Bowls that him and McCarthy. It's on paper, it's a lateral move, but you got to change something. You got to change the formula.
Well, that's where we disagree. That's where we disagree. I don't have a problem with them going away from Mike Tomlin. Okay, I have a problem because people, like I said, don't ask a man to do something he can't do if he don't have the horses. I don't care if his name's Mike Tomlin or Mike Wagner or whoever. At the end of the day, the Steelers have always went with young guys with new ideas. Why would you go to an old broken down horse that's been fired twice and then expect something new? That's not the Steeler way.
But you're going to count Jerry Jones firing him? Or just Jerry Jones?
Well, I'm just saying, you've been fired from two of the most prominent teams in the NFL, and now you own another one. What do you know that the whole league don't already know that they know you know that?
Well, I see on the sideline that, it may be a younger man's game, but I can tell you, and maybe it's not worth much, but you look at the body English, I don't see Tomlin with the clipboard. I don't see him, getting animated. It's like he's not into it. They're going down burning. And I see some of these other younger coaches that have some energy, and it's like I never saw it from Tomlin. And maybe that's nothing. That's superficial. That's just something that I see that maybe it doesn't have a lot of meaning. But I look at the record. I look at the offense, the defense. It's an offensive league. He's a defensive coach. You still have to have a good defense.
You still got to have a good defense, and it's an offensive. You're right. It is an offensive league. But if you don't have a trigger man, what difference does it make?
Well, I mean, I think there's some good quarterbacks.
No. I'm talking about that Mike Tomlin had to deal with since Ben Roethlisberger been gone, and in 3 years before he'd been gone. If you don't have a trigger man, it's not an offensive league. Not for that team.
Do you think Brock Purdy is one of the biggest talents in terms of a quarterback? Forget the team. Do you think he's one of the best quarterbacks? Does he have the strongest arm? Does he check a lot of the boxes on top?
Yeah, but look who his coach and offensive coordinator is. You want me to give you a history of Kyle Shanahan and what he's done with quarterbacks?
You just made my point, Stevie Ray. Thank you, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't have that in Pittsburgh.
Tomlin never did that. He never brought up a quarterback.
But wait a minute. You got to draft one first.
What's that?
I said you got to draft the quarterback first.
He did. He drafted him.
Kenny Pickett?
He drafted a bunch of lemons.
No. He didn't draft him. The fucking GM drafted him. Like I told you, when he wanted a quarterback, it was Jalen Hurts. Who did the GM draft? It wasn't Jalen Hurts. The coach only coaches. People think coaches draft players. They don't. You coaching the whole season the same time that college football is going on. Coaches ain't got time to look at what's going on in college football. Not until the like right now. Not until right now. In the Senior Bowl. They ain't got time to look at college football. That's what scouts do.
I'm going to go back one more time with this, Stevie Ray. He had Big Ben for a lot of good years.
He has, what's that?
They could win a playoff game.
Yeah, but how you going to win okay.
He has the golden goose.
How you going to win a playoff game when you don't have the horses anymore? And look at the teams that they was going against in the playoffs. If you don't win your division, you get the toughest teams.
They do that now.
No, that's what I'm saying. But you ain't going to fight fire if you don't have fire. You look at the Joe Burrows of the world. That's his division. You look at the even the Browns are trying to come up now, you know what I'm saying, with young Sanders. You know, you look at Jackson. That's all in your division. And you got the worst quarterback in that division, let alone the playoffs. You tell me this. I'm going to ask you one question before we move on to boxing. Name me one team in the NFL this year that would have had a winning record with Aaron Rodgers other than the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well,
and look at all the teams that went to the playoffs. Look at all the quarterbacks on all those teams. Every team had a top quarterback. Every team. Even Sam Darnold, he won 14 games last year. Then he won another 14 this year. And he was the only newcomer to the whole bunch.
Yeah, but I hear you. But Trevor Lawrence is a pretty good quarterback.
I know he is.
He didn't go anywhere.
I'm just saying, what team would have had a winning record other than the Pittsburgh Steelers if they had Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking for them this year? What team in the playoffs?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm not going to blame it on one guy.
No. What I'm saying is you ain't going to beat the big teams if you ain't got the same firepower they got offensively.
Yeah.
Not in the playoffs, because that's when the cold weather gets bad.
So you're telling me that Mike Tomlin isn't the one that had the conversation with Russell Wilson to get him over there?
No.
You're telling me that was the GM?
No. What I'm saying is the coach got to go with what the GM want to bring in. He can't say no. I've got to keep my job also. So if you want to bring him in, yeah, maybe he got something left in the tank. He's better than what we got.
Why did Aaron Rodgers end up there? You know why? Because of Mike Tomlin.
No.
Who had the conversation? Aaron Rodgers?
Omar Khan.
He talked to Mike. He talked to Tomlin.
I'm quite sure they thought he had something in the tank. I'm saying if they want to no, it don't mean nothing. Even if he says no, he's not the GM. The only GM head coach we had is gone, and that was Bill Belichick. And you see how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is people can say what they want about Mike Tomlin, but as long as I've been watching football since I was a little bitty boy watching the Jets against the Baltimore Colts in the Super Bowl, I ain't never seen a coach win with inferior players consistently.
Well, because good coaches give them good plays. They make them look good.
Only Don Shula and Tom Landry I've ever seen do that in my life.
Well,
those are only two. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Mike Thomas will still be there, but if you hold a man supposed to win the Super Bowl and you ain't got a Super Bowl team, let alone a Super Bowl quarterback, you can't ask him to do it or nobody else.
I think Mike Tomlin was the big reason that Russell Wilson was there. Mike Tomlin was the big reason.
He probably was, but that still don't change the fact that the guy ain't got it no more. It ain't like it was a lot of quarterbacks out there that you could get for cheap. If Russell Wilson was coming in with that $30-something million that was owed to him from Seattle, you think he would have been on Pittsburgh team?
No, they got
exactly.
$2 million.
So we getting him in here for a little over $1 million? Yeah, let's get him.
Yeah,
or you could go for Kirk Cousins. How much money you gonna be out of them?
He used his motivating voice. He fired those guys up, but he was the guy behind those guys being there. So I'm just saying, you made my point. I don't disagree with you. These guys laid an egg, but Mike Tomlin's not. He's not drafting the young one. He doesn't have the vision.
He tried to. He tried to, and that same guy done been to 2 Super Bowls.
Who's that?
Jalen Hurts.
Oh.
That's the guy. When Jalen Hurts was coming out, he was a number 2 round draft choice. He wasn't even number 1 draft choice. Steelers could have got him. But they chose to go with somebody else.
Philadelphia had a good coach and had a pretty good team that surrounded Jalen Hurts.
Well, that's not the point, though. Jalen Hurts was a Heisman Trophy candidate when he was at Oklahoma, and he was a starting quarterback at Alabama. Now you can get him in the 2nd round and you let him pass up.
What do you think the Steelers' record's got to be, Stevie Ray?
They better win more than 12 games.
I'm with you.
No. This is my thing. I want the Steelers to be competitive. That's the one thing I've never been a dreamer like a lot of people are. I'm not a dreamer. I'm a realist. And as long as they're competitive, that's the one thing the Steelers are, even when they ain't got the best of the best. And another thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers is when Omar Khan got there, he started hiring all these washed-out players from other teams instead of building with the guys that's already here. That's one thing the Steelers have always did. We never traded for all these different players. We always built them in-house. And ever since Omar Khan and the other GM that retired, that is what they started doing in the last 10 years because of their jobs. They're trying to keep their jobs too. I understand that. That's the part people don't understand. Yeah, I'm going to do everything to try to keep my job. And they've got away from the steal away, all the way up to bringing in Mike McCarthy right now. That's not the steal away. Because the one coach always took over other Steeler mentality players. The majority of these players right now in the Steeler teams, they're just football mentality, not Steeler mentality. That's my take on it.
I think either way you slice it, and I don't know that there's anyone that doesn't agree. Maybe they disagree with the choice, but who else is available? And they won't be saying that if they have the record, like you say. I'm hopeful, but I just know that everything. I knew every year would be a disappointment, even when they got a good start. But I think the team needed an enema, and it got one. So.
And what I'm saying to you is, it wasn't the coaches.
I think a coach was a big part.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the coaches. That's just, like I say, that's what we have to agree to disagree on. It wasn't the coaches. It was the players. It was the player personnel.
I think he was as big a part as anyone else.
Well, he's a head coach. He's always going to take that. But I'm just saying, you can change coaches. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys change coaches every 2 years. What happens?
They beat him up. They beat up a good, physically fit, tall, pretty decent quarterback with Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, but Mason is not a real full-time starter, but he's better than he was to me. It's just my opinion. He would be better than Aaron Rodgers because I seen him play 2 years ago when he was a third-string quarterback. After Kenny Pickett got hurt, and after what's your boy name is with? He's in Buffalo right now. Mitch Trubisky, he got hurt. And they brought Mason Rudolph in, third string off the bench. He won 3 games in a row and took him to the playoffs and lost by a touchdown to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. I mean, he did fine. He's a good.
You know what I'm saying? And now you get Aaron Rodgers. He can't even get a field goal. Can't even get a field goal in 4 quarters. Get out of here.
You're right. They were pounding Aaron Rodgers, but when they put Mason in there in the same game after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, he wound up coming back in, but the guy threw a pick. They embarrassed him.
I'm talking about the playoffs. How do you play a whole game and get 3 points?
Well,
this year. Whole game.
That was
whole quarter, 60 minutes.
And they praised the coach, but that coach wasn't playing, making calling good plays.
Yeah.
They had a lot of guys hurt. But
yeah. They knew exactly what. If you watch the game, I was on the phone with a couple of buddies of mine. If you watch the game, I knew exactly what he was going to do on every fucking play. Now, if I knew it, they knew it.
Yeah. Very predictable. Always predictable.
No, because he can't pull the trigger no more. Aaron Rodgers used to be that guy, step back, boom, right over the middle. He can't do it no more, man. The thought pattern to the hand is just not as quick anymore. That's all. It's just age, man.
I think he's good enough, but
it's just age.
You know, the stuff rolls downhill. And to me, that coach should have been held accountable, and he was.
When you talking about Smith, Arthur Smith? That's the offensive coordinator.
Arthur Smith, too. He wasn't all that, but.
Well, the head coach don't call the plays. Unless you shout Kyle Shanahan and the guy with Green Bay and the guy with the Bears. Them like the only 3 guys that call their own plays.
But don't you think the defensive coordinator reports to the head coach?
Yeah, but the defense. the defense on the field the whole time. They couldn't even get a first down.
Yeah.
You can't ask the defense to be Superman against a team like that.
But guys weren't open. I mean, what was Rodgers? He wasn't throwing it to the other team. The guys weren't open.
Yeah, they wasn't open. Exactly, they wasn't open because they knew the plays.
Washington got hurt. They had a couple of guys down. They had no targets. But they don't. What I'm saying is they don't utilize. That they're very predictable, like you said, and it's like they're not mixing it up. You know, little short check out, check passes, checking it down, and
let me tell you something about Arthur Smith, and you still got me on the Steelers. Do you know Arthur Smith, after the season before last, said that he wished they had never got rid of Justin. He wanted to work with Justin Fields, not Russell Wilson. Did you know that?
I don't blame him. But
no, I'm just saying.
The head coach, you got to admit, the head coach has some.
No. This is the deal. Let me show you how it works. When they signed Russell Wilson signed with stipulations saying that I'm QB1.
Oh, I know that. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a coach cannot dispute someone's contract because he didn't write it.
Yeah.
Omar Khan wrote that up. They shouldn't have never had that in his contract, that I'm QB1.
I think they could put a mediocre quarterback and give him the right place.
But see, that was before they got Justin Fields, though.
Yeah.
And that was Arthur Smith.
Let's shift gears in top racing. What do you want to talk? Boxing?
Well, you know what? Give me a little synopsis on what happened this weekend, because I didn't get a chance to see only the semifinals and the finals.
75 years of NHRA. It was a lot of hype, a lot of media. First race, of course, it's not in Pomona anymore. It's in Gainesville. There was a sellout crowd on Saturday. The forecast was great. It was mid 80 degree weather, and if we was testing a couple weeks before the Conquilers set records, ran 300 miles an hour, but it's all under control.
I saw that.
And of course, arguably the biggest news, without question, the biggest news was Austin Prock, Jimmy Prock, who has been with John Force for a lot of years, won a lot of championships.
Right.
One of the most decorated tuners in Nitro Funny Car of all time, right up there with Austin Coyle. They were hired by Pesca. So Austin filled that along with his brother, who's the assistant tuner on the car, and Jimmy Prock. They wanted to stay together as a family, but it was big news because they left John Force Racing.
Wow.
That'd be like Tom Brady leaving the Patriots.
Right.
In auto racing. So that was the big news. And in all of the drama of everything that happened, all the good racing, the few rookies, few new drivers in the field, Austin Prock did not qualify. So, that was a big story. There's a lot of talk. He's getting beat up on social media, if that's your thing, because, he left arguably one of the more popular drivers, and that's John Force. John Force there's no question about his accomplishments. And, but John's a little bit like a politician. He works real hard. He wants everyone to like him, to love him. That's important to him. So he goes out of his way to play to the crowd. And, here's a young guy that walked out on him, Austin Prock. He's in his, I think he's 30, 31, still a young guy, won the last 2 funny car championships. So, he said some things when he didn't qualify. He blamed the track, and, a lot of people booed him. But I'll tell you, Stevie, when the dust settles, I've been doing a TV now, the analysis this is my 10th year, and I see a guy that left, that wanted to stay with his family, You can't compete in terms of popularity with the biggest name in racing.
Right.
He's like a Dale Earnhardt, but only the NHRA version.
Right.
And in a week and a half, when we go to Phoenix, it's going to be 103 degrees there, and I think all eyes are going to be on that team to see if they can even qualify. They weren't even there on Sunday. They pulled their rigs out. They got beat up. A lot of people say, well, they should have stayed there. They still, they're representing the sponsors. Maybe he should have been there to sign autographs. I don't disagree with that.
Right.
I don't disagree. But, for all these people that light up social media, and you know this, Stevie, and only athletes know this, until you've been there, it's really hard to give your opinion. You can
That's true.
And you can spit the hate and all the criticism, because thank goodness we have that.
Right.
But what I see from my perspective is I still have the racer in me, but I'm more concerned about a big TV rating now. And it's a pretty damn good story.
Well, let's pivot toward that a little bit. The ratings nowadays. So many. I was having a conversation about these things on my other podcast that I do with Vince Russo, and we were talking about when Carl Gray was on the show too, and we were talking about professional wrestling, okay, and the ratings and things of that nature. And from the way I see things, and you tell me how this kind of transforms in the same thing with NHRA or NASCAR or IndyCar or anything else. That's the big three. A lot of the fans, from what I've been seeing for the last few years, are not showing up like they used to in IndyCar and NASCAR. I'm not sure about drag racing, but TV ratings, it's more than one way to watch things now because of all the streaming outlets. How is NHRA doing as far as putting up the numbers to attract the big sponsorships?
Well, TV is the most important thing when you talk about sponsorship. And overall, we were up close to 20% over the year from last year. That's last year's number.
Okay.
Good. You look at any business model, if their target is 6.5 or 7, whatever the number of growth is, that's good. But when you're up close to 20%, that's a good year. But this TV is all about programming, where they put you, how they schedule you.
Right.
And if you don't have that, then you better have a pretty damn good show. So you're a drag racing fan. You've been to the races. You have to see it to believe it. You have to feel it, smell it. These cars do something that would literally blow you away. Most people just don't understand the smell of nitro and how quick and fast they accelerate, how they shake the ground. And for us, we're exclusive with Fox, and this is the last year. It may continue, but I know that the negotiations have been ongoing. And I agree with you. I mean, I think that frustrates a lot of people that watch the NFL, watch hockey. Is it on CBS? Is it on Netflix? Is it on Prime? Like, where do we go? And only the hardcore fans, like, if I want to watch the Steelers, I'm pretty much going to do anything that it takes to watch the Steelers game.
Well, I watched the Steelers game, but I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to expose. I'm not going to expose myself.
Well, we're not alone. It's a challenge, but the rating is what sponsors look at.
Right.
And I'm not going to disagree with you, but in Gainesville, Florida, and yes, that's a college town, but we had a sellout crowd.
Great.
How many will that hold? I'm going to take a guess and say maybe 15,000 people. And Sunday wasn't technically a sellout, but we packed them in. Now, the challenge is, you've been to Pomona, Southern California.
Yeah.
Winter Nationals and Finals. Even people that aren't familiar with drag racing, they've probably heard of the Winter Nationals. Big Daddy Carlos, Tom Perdome.
Right.
There's a lot of history there, but it's a tough market because you have so many options, so many things to do.
That's true.
At Disneyland, you got all these sporting events you can do, and when the weather's nice, people want to go out and do things. So if you're asking me, it's a combination of marketing, it's a combination of of economics. You know, the price of a ticket, what's it cost for somebody to buy a ticket? Maybe $40, maybe $50 if they want reserve seats. So I think a lot of things play into, you know, the reason that the attendances at some of our live events aren't as good. But if you give, it's an outdoor sport. It's an outdoor motorsport. So we heavily rely on a good forecast, good weather. I know a lot of the events last year, our pre-sale tickets were up. So, you know, the marketing part of it and the promotions, you know, the drivers getting out there, you know, the series sponsors, Mission Foods. And it's important to have a good sponsor like that because they're in every grocery chain that you can imagine. They're in Kroger, they're in, you know, in Albert's, all these outlets. So when you walk in and you buy something, a couple of weeks out of a race coming to town, you're going to see some of the drivers showcased in the end cap.
Right.
So that's good. I'm just saying that's a small part of the importance of having the right partners. So we've got to continue to market. You know, the social media continues to get bigger and bigger, and you know, keeping the drivers active. But I got to tell you, Stevie, I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't BS and any politically correct anything. The people tune in because they're dangerous cars, right? These cars they catch on fire, they blow up, they're very explosive. 340 miles an hour, something goes wrong. You know, there's a kind of a little bit of human nature that enjoys to see that. Why do they watch Evel Knievel, right? The chance this guy's going to freaking bust up his body. And I think there's some element of that in the sport of drag racing. But I also think that the other thing that people can want to relate to are the drivers. And, you know, we're no different than why the NBA has thrived at times.
Now that's debatable. Well, go ahead.
Well, but people, you talk about an organization with problems. But let's look at NASCAR, right?
Okay.
And the best example is going to be Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon, right? You had two different personalities. You had an older, this guy that had this image, right? The bad guy, he's dressed in black. Then you had this younger guy, you know, Southern California. He was from Pittsburgh, but you know, the PR agency, they really polished him up. But he had talent.
Yes.
You had a rivalry. You had a good guy and a bad guy.
Right.
And once in a while, every sport needs that. And you know, we had John Force, we had your friend Kenny Bernstein, we had Joe Amato, and I got to tell you right now.
Wait a minute. We're about to go into the danger zone now. Now you did it. Now you did it, man.
Analysis. I have to be able to back up what I say.
Right.
Back it up, Stevie Ray. But I'll tell you this. You know, John Force had an accident a couple years ago. He's retired. He's not driving anymore.
Right.
He's got a couple of drivers. He's got a young guy in one of his cars. He's got an older guy with experience. You know, he's really not. He's making a difference in the car that I see.
Right.
You know what we need? We need personalities. We've got some female drivers. We've got some younger ones. We had a rookie that did very well, made it to the semifinals. But there isn't any sport that isn't looking for you know, the gal, Caitlin, she plays here in Indiana, the basketball, the WNBA.
Yeah.
Right?
Caitlin,
we're all looking for that, whether it's male or female.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I talked with your brother. I talked with Antoine Brown. I came up with different things to try to make drag racing a little bit more controversial, but don't nobody want to listen to old Ray Dog.
They don't do it, Stevie Ray.
They don't want to listen to me, man. I'm telling you. I came up with I'm from the pro wrestling world. As of right now, I'm finishing a book where I'm talking about how every single solitary thing in pop culture has stolen, has bitten, has swiped a little of pro wrestling to enhance their products as they put it out to the public.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
No
Everything, even politics. We see so much stuff on TV today, so many news shows with high ratings talking about politics. That's great. You used to didn't see that back in the day because now it's about entertaining and making things controversial. Am I lying?
Yeah, but if it's artificial, it doesn't work.
Yes, it does. Because you don't know. So many things are put together behind doors, but it's presented like it's real. Now, I'm not saying do it in a professional wrestling way. What I'm saying is people are selling entertainment through controversy. That's all.
Well, you're right. You're right. Our problem is, we have sponsors and most of them. I'm not going to say all of them because there are a couple of drivers that give it to us straight, and they don't worry about that. Those are the best ones that we have. We got a guy, Matt Hagan. This guy's pretty entertaining. He'll post stuff pre-race, and he'll dress himself up and post stuff on social media. This guy's got a little swagger. We haven't really had swagger since.
All the old timers had swagger. All the old timers had swagger, just like in NASCAR. All the NASCAR guys before Jeff Gordon got there had swagger. That's what made Jeff Gordon really stick out in a crowd. You're not one of us, and we don't want you here. That's the mentality from the fans. You're better than our old great race car drivers, and you're going to give them hell. That's where you get the spin. But you got to know how to capitalize on it. Believe me.
Now, I'm not knocking all of them because we have some that do good interviews, that have some personality and charisma, but we don't have enough of them. The ones that we want to promote as the superstars of our sport, it's just not genuine. And I'll tell you what the problem is. Here's the problem in our sport. We have drivers. We've got some pretty good sponsors. We've got a pretty good TV package.
Okay.
Part is increasing the ratings, but there's this group of PR people, and not one of them dirty, go to their driver and coach them. PR, does that not stand for public relations? That is frustrating to me when I hear a driver first race just talk about all these new sponsors. It just doesn't make sense. It's not natural. It has no appeal to anybody watching. And the problem with it is, I get it. It wasn't the most polished show for us in the broadcast booth,
right?
But it'll get better.
Right.
And I'm just saying that some of the drivers that we have, I'm never going to knock them because it's a high-risk sport. So I don't want to go there. I do respect the fact that they get in these dangerous cars, and when the car does what it's supposed to do, it's pretty exciting. It really is. IndyCar, they still promote, they still have their campaign and say we're the fastest motorsport in the world. Now, they're down 100 mile an hour from us. And yes, there is a stigma that we are all about horsepower. We just go in a straight line. But, that's how these cars are designed. They're built. But you don't have to turn left or right.
But your drivers, if going back to your drivers and their personalities, what you're seeing in IndyCar, NASCAR, and NHRA, in my opinion, because I've been watching this sport forever. I go back to when I was a little kid with my Hot Wheels, and I had the snake and the mongoose. I go back that far. Listen, everything in auto racing nowadays is no personality. Everything is cookie cutter. Even in IndyCar, they're from different countries, a lot of them, but they're all the same guy.
They're boring.
That's my point. They're all cookie cutter means, when your mother used to make cookies, she used that one little thing and all the cookies look the same. That's auto racing nowadays.
Stevie Ray, I'm going to tell you, I sat in a meeting last year at the Fox Studios, and there's a guy, I won't mention his name, but he's probably one of the smartest guys when it comes to TV. He handles all the programming, and he told me something I'll never forget. He said, if you don't have drama, you got nothing. You want to know what he told me?
That's what I was just saying.
He said, you know what people don't like? They don't like playing
Exactly.
So what we have on our show at times, we got too much plain vanilla. And
It ain't just you though. It's all racing. What I'm saying is, let's get outside the box. When Tony Stewart, not Tony Stewart, but Tony Petrogon. Well, yeah, Tony Stewart. What if Tony Stewart talked in NASCAR the way he talked, in NHRA, the way he talked to the media in NASCAR?
There's been some of it, but it happens behind the scenes. Everybody's too afraid to talk about it.
There you go. You don't want to piss the sponsors off.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's the problem with our sport. So we had a good rating this past weekend. We were close to 500,000. We didn't have a good lead-in. We were standalone, all by ourselves. And that's pretty good. That's actually not bad.
Oh, yeah. I thought what I saw of it was, damn good. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, as far as you guys staying afloat and staying out there, because, man, the world is changing, bro. The world is changing.
It is.
And it ain't just changing in auto racing and stuff like that. It's changing in everything, man. And,
It's a different generation, and it's a different culture.
Right.
Work never ends. And, our biggest challenge was then and still is get them to the race one time. But, the economy plays into that.
Most definitely.
And, and programming. But I guess where we were both going with that was part of it is, we have some pretty good drivers. We've got some good personalities. But right now, we really don't have a Dale Earnhardt. We don't have a Tiger Woods. We don't have they all want to be. And the little egos may think that they are, but they're spitting out the same thing over and over. And I can see it because
I know you can see it. I know you can see it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the great Tony Petrogon. You all know him. He's been on the show before, but he's on the phone today. Two-time NHRA champion, funny car, whether it was Mellow Yellow or anything else, brother. He went out there and did his thing, and we're talking to him right now about all sports. Now we're talking about his sports. So everybody out there, you can't call in right now because Tony's on the phone. But when Tony gets off the phone, you probably still can't call in either. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about, and we're going through some of the, things where I look at as cookie cutter because, I'm into personalities. You guys know I'm from the professional wrestling business. Everybody has to have the big personality because that's what sells. And that's why today, when you see reality shows or some of the top shows on television, it's because of the controversy. When you see TV news shows, it's because of the controversy. So what Tony was just alluding to was what I believe in. It's because if me, let's say Stevie Ray just went down the drag racing traps, and I'm in my pro stock. I'm in my pro stock, and I own my own car, and I just obliterated the field. When I get out the car, you think I'm talking about, I want to thank everybody here. My guys had a good car. They put a good car together. You think old Ray Dog gonna be talking like that? I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna be talking. I'm gonna say, see that? They couldn't mess with me. Line them up. I'm gonna knock them all down. That's how I'm gonna be talking. And if you don't like it, come do something about it. Can you imagine that interview, Tony?
Oh yeah. Now we do have a couple of, I mentioned we got a couple of stories. I think the next race is going to be interesting. But that is what our sport lacks. It just does. It's too politically correct. They're too worried about their sponsors.
Right.
I just love that. You mean to tell me that the VP of marketing is watching the person that they invest in and get out and stumble and frickin' fumble over all these stupid sponsors on their name? It's like, and Media 101 is, hey, if you crash, if you blow up, or if it's not positive, you don't have to mention all the sponsors. They kind of don't want to be mentioned.
Right.
Even though you can see their name written on a 10-foot logo on their car. But it's like, nobody thinks about that. Yet they continue, good or bad, to get out of the car and rattle off in such a boring manner.
Is that's what their PR people are telling them to do?
That's what they're trained to do, and no one is really. I'm not saying no one. I shouldn't say that. There's not enough of them that are just laying out their own personality. They're just not doing it. They
Right.
don't have the nerve. They don't have the training. They don't have the wherewithal to just be themselves. And they're getting out and hugging. You know, because I mentioned his 75th year. Don Garlis was at the race. This guy's 93 years old, and he looks good. Don Prudhomme was there. Joe Amato, Shirley Muldowney was there.
Right.
So they're going to have a lot of these legends at a lot of the events. And when I look at them, I always think, man, Prudhomme would have never gone and hugged his buddy
Right.
after he got his butt kicked. It would have never happened. Don Garlis would have never done that. Shirley Muldowney, she was a female. She was competing and beating men,
Yeah,
but she was popular mostly because of her personality.
Oh yeah, brother. I remember that. Shirley Muldowney was a whole nother level than the females today, brother. She was about her business, brother. And that's what I really admired about her. I was like, man, this woman here, I don't even know if I would walk up to her and ask for an autograph. You know what I'm saying? Because she was very intense, man. I remember that.
Well, what I'm saying, Stevie Ray, is these cars are exciting to watch.
Yes.
They're still, you're going to fight death once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're still explosive. They're very exciting to watch. But I'm just an analyst on a show, and I would really love to see more authenticity, reality, and I'm no different than anyone else. I'm an observer, and I want to see something different.
Tony, you can help them. I don't know if a lot of people out there that don't know. We got Tony Pedregon on today, like I said a few minutes ago, NHRA champion 2 times. He's won 43 races. How many races have you won, Tony?
It's been a while, but I won 43 races.
How would I know that? Okay, he won 43 races, and I seen maybe 2 of them. No, I'm just kidding. I've probably seen at least 30 of them. I know for a fact. But be that as it may, Tony, and I'm gonna move on after this. We're talking about the personalities in auto racing nowadays, what I call cookie cutter. I don't know what he refers to it as, but it is lacking in auto racing. But if you guys remember, Tony Stewart in NASCAR used to talk a lot of you know what. And not only that, this man right here, Tony Pedregon, I seen this man get out of his race car and challenge somebody. I'm not going to say his name.
Oh, my God.
He got out and challenged the man right there on national TV. That's you, Tony. You hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got out of his car with his helmet and said, yeah, baby, bring it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I had a whole new respect. This is no lie. The first time I'm telling you this. That's when I had a whole new respect for Tony Pedregon. Huh?
But it's a place where you can go where you don't have to deal with politics. If you like cars and you like something that's all American, that's why I'm not knocking our sport. I'm just critiquing
Right.
things that you and I both agree on. You come from a different world, but you come from a business that is very physical, very demanding, but it's entertainment, and that's the way I look at it now more than ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I say at the end of the day, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, you're still trying to put asses in seats, and you still want that fan to be a super fan. So in essence, in pro wrestling, in pro wrestling, we believe in giving the people what they want. And a lot of times they don't know what they want until you give it to them. That's one of the unwritten laws of professional wrestling.
You gotta get them hooked. You gotta
Yes.
hook them on it.
It's one of the unwritten laws, and controversy sells. And I'm not talking about manufactured controversy, but just people letting their emotions flow to a certain degree. Not to it gets hostile, but to a certain degree. That is why I sent I don't know. I sent some to you, I think. Do you remember the pictures I sent of your brother? And by the way, guys, Cruz is not here tonight because he's under the weather. I don't know if he's got an acute case of I think he got an acute case of epidural when he knew he was going to be talking to me tonight. So Tony had to step in and be a pinch hitter. Hopefully we'll get him on sometime soon. But do you remember the sketches that we sent to you with your brother?
Remember them well.
Okay. The whole thing behind that is I and my partner want to make race drivers look bigger than life, like professional wrestlers, and give them names, you know, like a code name, a slogan. I can't remember. The one for Cruz was called "Cruising for a Bruising." Okay, and he's looking all jacked. And like I told him, if you had been around me for the last 30 years, this is what you would look like if you had been around me every day. That's what I told him. So this is the way I look at you guys, like superheroes. So if I look at you like a superhero, I make you into a superhero, and you can sell that to the fans because it's an alternative from what they see every day with the regular pictures and the little 8x10s that everybody sit down at the table and sign. But you got this guy back there. That's a novelty. You see what I'm saying?
I hear you.
That's a novelty, and you turn all those guys. Matter of fact, we even got one of you and your partner.
Brian Lones.
Yes.
Brian Lones, the host of the show.
Yeah, we even got one of you. We just did it for the hell of it, but I never called you about it because none of the crew seemed interested in it. But what I wanted to do was do one of him, one of Antoine. Antoine loved his too. His tagline was, "The champ is here." And then we had one of Tony Stewart, and his was, "Who wants to smoke?" And all these guys are looking like superheroes. Now you kind of get it. So what we're doing is trying to bring that pro wrestling element to drag racing. And it's a special novelty to get it because it's off kilter from everything else that the fans can buy.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned some of the big names. Look, Cruz been doing it for a long time. Antoine Brown, he's African American. He's got a great personality. But Tony Stewart, I mean, he's already made his bone.
Well, see, the thing about Tony was this. It was one of Tony, one of Cruz, one of Antoine, and one of the girl. What's the girl? My daughter turned me on to her when she was real little. The pro stock driver. She's from here in Texas. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What's her name? The pro stock driver. She's won the championships a few times.
The one she drives for Richard Freeman.
What I was doing was minorities. Now I'm exposing this on YouTube right now, but somebody will ask me, well, Tony's not a minority, but he's a minority to drag racing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I wanted to choose those 4 people first, not because they're minorities, which makes them stand out. A woman stands out. A Hispanic American stands out. A African American stands out, and the guy that's from another brand of racing stands out. So,
Comment about that TV rating. There's no group. There's no DEI group behind it that said, "Look, we got to have some Hispanics in there."
I know that. This is to me as a fan.
All of us that you just mentioned, we had to swim upstream. We had to start from the bottom, and we worked our way up into the highest level of.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
That's the whole ambiance.
Yep.
That's the whole ambiance of what I'm trying to convey.
Yep.
If you see what I'm saying, this ain't about none of that. This is what me and my buddy who is Hispanic also, This is what we came up with. Hey, these will stand out more. And then if we see this, the other guys see this, then maybe they'll jump on too. Yeah. And then we can do everybody. We can do one of anybody in NHRA and put a slogan tag on it, just like pro wrestling. So I'm exposing that now, gang. If this ever transpired, this is what me and my partner was throwing together, because everything is a little different. And what we were trying to use that for was a template. If people like these, they're like everybody, but they're all champions. Then again, I don't know if Tony is a champion. He didn't win the championship last year, did he?
He won what they call the championship, which, you know, it is what it is. Not the overall championship, which that's the only thing that really matters to me. But
who won that?
He's a solid driver. I think he's with a better team. You know, he's got to compete against his wife Leah. So you get a little bit of everything. Definitely get a little bit of everything. So who won the championship in Top Fuel last year? DK, Doug Kaleta.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I say Kaleta. People tell me it's really Kaleta, but everybody says Kaleta. But he's a very accomplished driver.
Oh no, I know him. I know him very well. Met him many times. As a matter of fact, every time I see him, I say, "Hey, what's up, Kaleta's Flying Services?" He gets a big kick out of that, because me and my brother had to take a private plane back in the day to New York after we just got through wrestling. We had to go to General Aviation about 11, 12 o'clock at night and fly to New York, do a thing for Comedy Central, get back on a private jet, go back to St. Louis where we was wrestling the next night. We get off the plane, run in the building, our music is playing, and we run to the ring and wrestle, all in 24 hours. And the plane that we was on was Kaleta Flying Services. Yeah. And I told him that story, man. And I was like, Kaleta, oh man, this is kind of Kaleta thing. I knew he was in the airplanes. I didn't know it was like this though. Then I found out, I did a little research afterwards, and I was like, oh man, I didn't know he was into this kind of stuff. Yeah.
True. Speaking of your brother, I spent a little bit of time with Kenny the King Bernstein, first driver to 300 miles per hour, and he was at Gainesville. Spent some good time with him. He looks great. But I remember before I met you, I would always hear over the PA when I was racing. I was in my own pit, but I would always hear Booker T, Stevie Ray, you're hanging out with Kenny Bernstein. So,
actually, it was just me. My brother he doesn't like racing. I mean, he's came to some, but not with me. Yeah. He came with some because when we was in WCW, we had race cars, we had NASCARs. So a lot of times they would choose wrestlers to go out to the NASCAR races. You know how that stuff go, man. Used to have the same stuff in NHRA. Remember when they had Vince them had the Undertaker and the stuff like that on the hood of the cars? Do you remember that? Well, yeah, we used to have to go to some of the NASCAR races and represent our brand, you know. So the crew start asking for me all the time, because I was the only person that knew anything about NASCAR. So the guys on the team would always, when the PR people call in and say, we need some guys going to be at a certain race, and they would call me and say, these guys would question you all the time. Because when I got to the races, I would talk to the guys, and the guys didn't realize, how do you know so much about NASCAR, bro? I've been a car guy since I was a little kid. I don't just know racing, I know cars. So when I would ask them questions, and I swear to God, one of the crew guys asked me, he said, brother, you know more about NASCAR than the guys that work on the team. I said, but they just work here. I'm a fan. Uh-huh.
He's a car guy too.
Yeah.
When I was racing and Quaker Stick was my sponsor, they used to send me to certain functions.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Of course, They sent me to the Air Force Base in Virginia, and Goldberg was there, and he had a very unique car. It was called the Outlaw Mustang. It was a fastback Mustang. I believe it was a 68. It was one of three. I think Ford made four of them, but one of them fell off of a carrier.
Oh, wow.
Overseas, because whoever came up with this program, he pitched Ford. Ford built the cars because all the servicemen, when they would come back from the war, all these GM and Ford, they started making these performance cars. Well, a lot of these servicemen were crashing them because there was a lot of horsepower back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wanted to create a way of means of training them. So they built these Outlaw Mustangs. In fact, Connie Gillette, who's up there in Michigan, he had a performance shop. He built the cars. Ford paid him. They put superchargers on them. I believe Goldberg, and I don't know that any others exist. So he really has a very unique car, one of one. And he had this at the Air Force Base. And this is one of the cool things. When I look back on my career, I did some promotions with Carlos Santana. I hung out with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. I did some really cool stuff. But one of the highlights will always be Goldberg had that car there. And Bill, we were talking. I walked around it. I thought, it's got a blower on it. It's got this injector sticking out of the hood. And he asked me if I would drive it. And we took that down the airstrip. And I opened it up a little bit. I think there's a video on YouTube somewhere.
I got to see that.
That was just, and it was very, speed is relative. Power is relative. This car had a lot of horsepower.
Right.
But so do new cars with the inline six-cylinder that makes, 550 horsepower.
Right.
It's the inline six. But back then, this was a big motor, and it had kind of raw horsepower. It didn't have a good suspension.
Right.
It kind of wandered all over the place. And I opened it up a little bit, but I'll never forget, here's this big 6'6" Bill Goldberg. I'm sitting in his car, I'm driving it, and I just thought that was one of the biggest compliments that I could ever get. And he said, because he told me that, he said, Tony, nobody's ever driven this car except for me. So I will always hold that memory, and I'll never forget it. And once in a while, he'll text me or I'll text him. He watches the show, and it's a real good memory.
I used to trying to think of what kind of car Goldberg and I used to argue about. Some car he had that Ernie Elliott supposedly built the motor in. And I'm like, man, I eat that car like collard greens, man. What you talking about, bro? What you talking about? I got a 396 LT1 with the stroker motor in it and ported heads with about 15 pounds of boost. Man, I eat that car like collard greens, man. You talking about, man? Get out of here, man. What are you talking about? I said, I'm a car guy, man. I don't just buy cars and let somebody tell me about them. I put them together. I tell somebody how to put it together. I ain't got time to work. I came up working on cars, man. I ain't no Johnny come lately, Tony. I'm a real car guy. Just like those NASCAR guys found out. I'm a real car guy. Just like Lee Beard found out. I said, brother, I can name you every Indy 500 from 1961 to the present. Who won and some of them, what car they was driving. I'm a car guy. I'm a race guy, man.
That's why we clicked. Let me ask you a question, Stevie. You ever been in the ring with Bill?
Never been where?
You ever go step in the ring with Bill Goldberg?
Yeah.
You did. I gotta go to YouTube after we talk.
Yeah, he beat me. I let him beat me. That was my job. But yeah, me and Bill was cool, man. That's one thing we always had in common. Cars. Actually, me and Hulk Hogan, God rest his soul. Me and Hulk Hogan, that's the only thing when him and I would talk, we talk about cars and motorcycles.
Cool.
No bullshit. Cars and motorcycles. Every time we had a moment together, you know what I'm saying? Because it's rare when people can talk about things like that at a certain level. You know what I'm saying? At a certain level.
Yeah.
And especially historic classic cars and what they came with and how many did they produce and what kind of compression did they have and what kind of transmissions you could get and things of that nature. So I've always been into that as a kid. So
still brings people together.
Oh yeah, man. So I'm just saying. Now Goldberg, he was a car guy, but he wasn't a historical car guy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you know, like the Boss 302. You know what I'm saying? And what it came with back in 1969, 1970, or something like that. Well, I do, even though I'm not a Ford guy, I'm a Chevrolet guy. You know what I'm saying? But I know about all the old pony cars, man. That was the real stuff, man. So that's good talking, having those conversations with those two guys. But yeah, Ernie Irvan. I'm like, man, when the last time Ernie Irvan built a motor that could beat somebody? 87? You know what I'm saying? 87, when Bill Elliott was dominating everything. Once they put the restrictor plates on him, he was nothing.
Oh my God!
People are gonna hear that and call us old heads.
No, I love Bill Elliott. Ernie Elliott goes. Ernie was doing those. You remember back when Bill Elliott calls with head and shoulders faster than everybody else, man. Woo! But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end this segment because we're going into our last topic now. And it probably won't be that long because Tony has lost so much money to me.
Oh, yeah.
He has lost so much money, ladies and gentlemen. I'm putting his business all in the street. But Tony, I got a couple of questions. And then we're going to let you go, man. And then I'm putting out an APB. I'm putting out an APB. Huh? No, I'm putting out an APB on your brother.
Oh my
Because
God!
I think he hanging out with his girlfriend or something at dinner tonight, and she told him he couldn't do the show. That's what I'm thinking. So he act like he got some stomach flu or whatever. But we'll find out. We got an APB out on him. But okay, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, you can't call in right now because we got Tony on the phone. But next time we'll have him on the show, and you'll be able to call in. But I got a few questions to ask him before we let him go. Tony, we talked about the last fight we bet on, I think, was who was it? Was it Canelo and Crawford?
It was Canelo and Crawford.
Okay, now there's some fights coming up. I want to see what you think about them. What do you think about the big rumor about Floyd Mayweather going broke and going to have to come out of retirement and have some fights? Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. I know he's lining up 2 or 3 with Pacquiao and Tyson. I'm not interested. Now I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to try to sneak a peek.
Right.
Because
I'm the same way.
Look, I still, and my son, my son boxes. He's taking a little time off, but we love fighting. We watch all the fights together, and he's a big Tyson fan. So am I. It's hard for me to get over that Tyson got in the ring with one of them Jake Pauls, and I don't really have a lot against that guy. I actually think he's a good person for some of the things that he does. But as a boxing fan, I have a tough time buying into a staged exhibition. If it's an exhibition, call it an exhibition.
Right.
But don't try to con people into telling them it's a bona fide fight. So that's where I draw the line. And I don't like the fact that Tyson got in that ring and he just took the money. And they played it as if it was a legitimate fight.
A legitimate competition, yeah.
That's not the way I saw it. So I got to tell you that I wouldn't be real interested in that. Look, I know that Floyd Mayweather, I'm not into all the flash and how he carries himself. I'm a big fan of him and his career. I think he boxed a lot of fighters in their prime, but he did protect the O.
Yeah, wait a minute. We're about to go into the danger zone again, man. I'm trying to figure out what fighter are you talking. Fighter are you talking about that may have been in his prime but was not at his level? What about that? I think it's a difference.
Well, look, Mosley had he not helped Mosley, now Mosley wasn't in his prime.
No.
Mosley hurt him.
Well, we're getting hurt. It's 12 rounds. We still got 10 rounds to go.
So you're asking me who he fought
that was at what fighter did he fight that was on his level, that was at their apex? See, this is the conversations that I get in with people all the time. Now, after all these years, people are hearing Roy Jones tell people the same thing I've been saying for 10 years. But go ahead.
I mean, I'd have to look at I'd have to freshen up on it.
Well, I can tell you every fight that he done had since he fought Oscar De La Hoya and since he got to 147, because he didn't become the big name till after he fought Oscar De La Hoya. I can name all of them.
Yeah, but I think the people knew he was still coming up, and everybody needs a big fight like that.
He was already 30 years old. You ain't coming up at 30 years old. You should have been there already.
Oh my God.
What was that?
Was De La Hoya past his prime when he
Oh, come on. De La Hoya had already been knocked out by Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah.
You know, De La Hoya had already been beaten by Shane Mosley twice. De La Hoya had already been beaten by Felix Trinidad. De La Hoya had already, I think he lost that fight to Ike Quarte. I think he lost the fight to Sweet Pea. So De La Hoya had already been through the gambit. He was 33 years old and had been through the gambit. And he's still out, and at that time, he admitted this, out there chasing, we're going to put De La Hoya at his apex then.
I don't disagree with you, but I guess where I was going with that is you cannot deny the talent. Yeah, there was some strategy. Look, if somebody asked me the greatest pound for pound fighter of all time besides Ali and maybe Sugar Ray Leonard, Roy Jones. I'm on that bandwagon. Yeah,
okay, I can agree with you on that, but I'm talking about Mayweather and his record. Let me ask you this: you was a top athlete at one time, a champion in NHRA. Okay, you can't just sit on the bus stop and be a champion in an organization like the NHRA. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're say it again.
I said you are a two-time champion in NHRA. You can't just sit at the bus stop and become a champion in an organization like that, the top drag racing organization in the world, by sitting at the bus stop. Right or wrong? You got to climb your way to the top and go through the gambit. Am I right or wrong about that?
No, I agree with you. I mean,
okay.
He wasn't in an era with the four kings.
Oh no, I'm making a point here. If you take how many people now, when it comes to drag racing, let's say we talk about the top 10 drag racers of all time. Okay, would you be in that category?
Are you talking about in terms of driver?
Yeah, just being a all-out, can do it type driver. When he got the right equipment, he's hard to beat.
I would have to say yes.
Okay.
But I would say this. I would defend it this way. A lot of them would say yes because that's how we have to think.
Okay, but that's cool. That's cool.
It's not about wins or popularity. If it's about natural raw talent.
Of course. Okay, fine. That's all I needed. So, how many people being in the top 10, top 15, top 20, that's one thing. But when you are the best of the best, arguably self-professed, the best of the best in a game like boxing, how many people that you know in any sport are the best of the best, and we don't see them endorsed by the biggest companies in the world? How many?
Not many of them. Not many at all.
When you are the best, have you ever seen, do Serena Williams have the biggest sponsors known to man when she was on the top?
Bingo. Yeah.
Does LeBron James have the biggest sponsors on the world when he's on top?
So you're saying
did Tom Brady have the biggest sponsors on the world when he's on top, or Peyton Manning?
All the above.
Okay. How many? The only person that is supposed to be the best of the best ain't never been sponsored by nobody. Can anybody explain that to me?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was, look, I don't agree with, I don't disagree with you. All I'm saying is he wasn't in that era. And yeah, and I
I know that, but you was in this era, and you're supposed to be the best of the best. You can go around and show your riches. You can show around and show your wealth. You can show all this other stuff, almost like I'm watching a 1980s hip hop video or 1990s hip hop video. But where are the sponsors? When you are the best of the best, they find you. You don't find them.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a lot of people don't like, and especially, companies, corporations.
But how do we know that?
Yeah, well.
What I'm saying is this: a false narrative you can sell to the public, but you can't sell it to the people with the money.
Well, yeah, and when you have to hype yourself, and when you have to sell yourself, in the manner that Mayweather does, you got to question that.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. When you are the best of the best of the best try to live lives where they're not seen. Right or wrong?
Yeah.
You ever see LeBron James walking down the road with a bag of money?
Yeah.
You ever seen Serena Williams doing a crip dance with a bag of money?
Mayweather, So I don't know if he's in my top 5.
He's not in my top 10. If you go by the record, it's one thing, but people in boxing, and you know who I'm trying to get on the show right now? And if I do, I want you to tune in. I'm going to hit you if I get him booked. Roy Jones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get Roy Jones on the show, but be that as it may, what I'm saying is this. In boxing, when you go into it, I don't know if you ever been in an African-American barbershop. I grew up in them. That is why I know boxing so much, because boxing was always a big conversation in the African-American barbershop. Okay? I'm going to tell you something they never talked about. They never talked about your record. They talked about your competition.
Yeah. No.
It ain't who you.
And I think a lot of people get confused when that topic is brought up, that you have to listen to the question. Who's the winningest? No. It's got nothing to do with win. We're talking about who is the best.
Right.
Who's in the ring, who's proven it, and who, according to their peers, are the best, are the most talented. And I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
So anybody can put out a false narrative. Like, nobody ever cared about a 0 record until this, because they needed that to promote him. But at the end of the day, the majority of the people, how many fights had Julio Cesar Chavez won before he lost?
Wasn't it, I don't know, was it 83 or 89?
It was somewhere in between 83 and 89, probably 87. Mr. Producer, can you look that up for me? Yeah. How many fights did Julio Cesar Chavez? I think it was 87. I could be wrong on that. But how does 87-0, how does 50-0, well, actually 49, but I take the MMA guy out of it. How does 49-0 compare to 87-0?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But I answered your question. I'm not interested in him and Pacquiao. It's just, look, whatever his financial problems are, I'm not interested in. You know what fight I thought might be good was, I heard that Gervonta's coming back. He'll have a rematch with Pitbull.
Yeah, I like that.
Those two styles there, I'd like to see that again.
Well, I don't think you're going to see like Pitbull against Rolly Romero. I think you're going to see the same fight we saw the first time. Tank is not going to go in with gun blazes. He's going to box him. Most guys that come from Mexico that box the way Tank does, you just circle them and make them chase you. Don't try to engage with him because he'll hurt you. So at the end of the day, if Tank engages with him, that's a mistake.
No, I agree. But look, I'm going to disagree with you a little. I still think it's going to be a good fight.
I'm not saying it's not going to be a good fight. I'm just saying you're not going to see fireworks.
But Pitbull's style, just like Lamont Roach, and Roach is good. There's a reason Gervonta, he trouble followed him, and he did plenty to find trouble, but he didn't want that smoke. Lamont Roach is a good fighter.
Yeah.
He was going to beat him again, even though it was a draw the first time.
Right.
Lamont Roach, he underestimated Pitbull too.
I honestly rather see that fight again than the Tank fight. Because Tank done been through so much stuff.
That's why.
How is he mentally? I'm kind of worried about his mental state.
That's why I'm
Oh, okay. I can see now. I see why you're saying that. Okay, I didn't think about that at first.
You and I after this call, we're gonna make a little bet if they fight. So I'm
Okay.
coming at you to give me that 100 back.
Well, what do you think? I'm listening to some guys. Let me see what you think about this. Because I've been going round and round I go round and round with people on Facebook and stuff so much. I didn't really realize how confused the world really is. I think the American educational system is really doing its job. Because nowadays people will believe anything, bro. I'm listening to this guy give his diatribe on social media saying if Floyd Mayweather gets past Manny Pacquiao, the biggest fight would be between him and Terrence Crawford. What?
Terrence Crawford's too big for him.
Big? Terrence Crawford is too skilled for him.
He's too skilled, he's too strong, he's too big.
First of all, Mayweather wouldn't have fought Terrence Crawford if Mayweather was still fighting and Terrence Crawford was coming up and they was the same weight class. He would have never fought that guy. Do you know Terrence Crawford has never had a fight where he didn't knock the guy out or it was a unanimous decision by a wide margin? Did you know that?
Yeah, well, I also know that Gamboa hurt him. You know, so
anybody can be hurt.
Yeah.
Ali was knocked down by Joe Frazier and broke his jaw.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the best of the best. The best of the best. Oscar De La Hoya was knocked on his ass and knocked out.
Who did Crawford look really bad against?
Nobody. His worst fight was Medramov.
Bingo.
That was his worst fight. But it still, let me ask you something though. It still was a unanimous decision.
Still did, but man, he didn't look that good.
Okay, let me ask you this.
And if there was
Why didn't he look good?
If there was a Triple G, that would be a different story. So,
Bruh, what?
You could say the same about Crawford. You could say about Mayweather.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Mayweather done been 12 rounds with guys that shouldn't be in the ring. Wouldn't even get in the ring with a Crawford. He went 12 rounds with Andre Berto. Are you kidding me, bro? Andre Berto, the person everybody beat. Robert Guerrero beat him.
Yeah. At one time, he got caught up in all this stuff too, the girls and the drugs,
Who?
the lack of training.
Who?
You got to admit, that guy was a talent.
Andre Berto? Andre Berto was good when he was fighting inferior competition. And this is what I used to say back when he was in the ring. As soon as that guy fight somebody, he gonna get his head knocked off. And that's exactly what happened. When you get in the ring with a guy like Robert Guerrero, he's a good fighter, but he shouldn't have your whole face swole up. He shouldn't.
Yeah.
He's not that good he's a good fighter, but he's not a great fighter. Andre Berto is like most flat-footed guys that's got good hand speed and good power, but he got no feet. He got no feet. He's too slow with his feet, not his hands.
It's another wasted talent that went down the wrong road.
Bro, I mean, at the end of the day, he fought some top guys, but whenever he got in the ring, like when he got in the ring with Victor Ortiz, then he said, well, I wasn't here tonight. No, you wasn't here because the guy was putting you on your ass all night long.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the top talent I'm talking about. When he got in the ring with Showtime Sean Porter. He hit me in the back of the head. Of course he did if you kneel down, and then you had to stop the fight, man. Come on, man. You in a level now. And one thing I blame Mayweather for, you can't take from the business and never give back to it. You don't do that, bro. He never fought He never fought the young lion. What Oscar De La Hoya did for him, he never did for nobody else. I got a problem with that, Tony.
Yeah, I agree. Look, he was the best businessman, and he had a lifestyle that, not too many people. I think that he must have thought a lot different than how people look at him. What they see is a fool,
Right?
And it's hard for me to understand why he would live like that and want that attention and be so reckless with his money, because he's definitely not as smart as he thinks. That's for sure. But
well, I'm like this. Who's going to put up a $200 million fight? Who's going to put the money up for something like that when they know you desperate? When they know you desperate, bro. That's just like, Tony, if you were selling your house and I know you desperate, you really think I'm gonna give you what your house is worth?
Yeah, no, I agree. He's gonna go to the guys with money like Turkey and see if he can make it happen. He's gonna try to pull a Jake Paul and promote himself, and do all this stuff. But
and my boy just said right here, Mayweather was a businessman. No, Al Heyman was the businessman. As soon as Al Heyman got away from him back in 2023, 2024, look where we are now. See what I'm saying? Don't bite the hand that feeds you, dog. What's that?
Yeah, I hear you. Two more questions. How is it, Goosen, how do these fighters, how do they not see that this guy, we were talking about the Steelers and, coaches, and, they get to a point to where they're just not what they used to be, and, young guys come into the league, and you can see a lot of the teams that went deep into the playoffs, they pretty much had younger coaches.
Right. And top quarterbacks.
And yeah, maybe. But
ain't no maybe to it, brother. All you gotta do is look at the stats.
But how is it that these fighters don't recognize that Joe Goosen is not a good trainer? He's not. He wasn't when he worked with Garcia. He never told him, hey, you better keep that hand up and protect yourself from that hook.
Right.
And how is it that a Teofimo, and I get it, I get the father and son dynamic, but I watched a little bit of that fight, and I just listened to the corner, and it's like, man, that's not you. You're trying to inspire this guy to deal with Shakur, or he's not giving them useful information, and I don't understand.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I heard the commentators talking about that. But with all due respect, what happened in the Teofimo Lopez fight against Shakur Stevenson, I called that also. This guy can't deal with a jab and foot movement, man. He's just not athletic enough. And I know what his dad was saying, but at the end of the day, Teofimo Lopez has been in there with the best of the best. He never looked like a job. He never looked like a job guy until that night.
Yeah.
That style, he just can't deal with. I'm sorry. That style, Canelo Alvarez against Crawford. And Stevenson and Crawford train together.
Yeah, no, I agree.
These guys just know how to take away from you what you do good. And you can't teach somebody to get around it.
Like,
either you got it or you don't.
To that style. How do you not train and tell your son or get somebody that can tell him how to execute, how to stay with, how to do something different than what happened? What I'm saying is that it breaks my heart that a fighter can't recognize that, and that a dad.
But I'm asking you, what would he have done if he had tried to do that? His daddy ain't fighting. I'm in the ring with this guy, brother, and this dude, he just never dealt with nothing like you. What I'm saying is, you can't train for something. You can bring in sparring partners, just like Canelo brought in Boots Ennis and all that. I don't care how many people you spar with. Until you get in the ring with it, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, no.
That guy makes everybody look like that. He makes everybody look like that. I mean,
but it's like anything else. It's like firing him up isn't going to do it. He's getting hit with that jab and everything that Shakur threw.
Yes.
Counter, right? Everything, because he's a counter puncher. But he was getting hit with everything in a kitchen sink.
Well,
and not once did I hear good advice on how to deal with it.
Well, the only thing I'm saying is this. Just because your dad is saying it, don't make it true.
Yeah.
Your dad, we could have asked your daddy, you get in here and fight him then. I can't deal with this. It's nothing you do. Wait, even if lost, he looked good. But in this fight, you telling me all of a sudden you forgot how to box? Like my boy just said, styles make fights. And it's certain, if you look at Canelo, every time he got in the ring with a guy that moved and made him reach, he didn't look good. Yeah. That's his kryptonite. And I don't care. Every guy that stands in front of him, Canelo eats him like collard greens. Yeah. I'm serious. That's why when they first presented that fight to Canelo, he knew he'll tell you, I don't like fighting guys like this. You want to fight guys that's there for your style. Don't blame Canelo. I get into it with people all the time. Oh, Canelo cherry picking. You didn't say that when Floyd Mayweather was doing it.
Do you think anybody will bring Terrence Crawford back in the ring?
You know what? That guy got a lot of integrity, bro. That guy and what else he had to prove? If a guy can go from 147 to 168 like it's nothing, we've never seen that in the history of boxing. With one fell swoop. We've never seen that.
And because he's smart with his money, he may not have to. So
well, that's what he said. That's what he said on the Pivot interview. He said, brother, I don't need a $500,000 car. I drive what did he say? I drive a 2024 GMC Denali, and I love it. What a car for? For what?
Yeah. Well, after you get like Canelo says, the payday, he may not have to.
Well, but you got to realize he's never lived like that before. You know what I'm saying? He got good money to fight Showtime Sean Porter. He got good money to fight Spence. He got an even bigger payday with Canelo. But what I'm saying, the guy been making $2-3 million a fight. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money when you're not extravagant.
Well, you fight Canelo, you get a lot more than that. But
yeah, but you know what I'm saying is he didn't fight Canelo. He fought Canelo to be a 3-time undisputed champion, not for the money. He could have fought Boots Ennis for money. He could have fought the 160-pound champion for money.
No. Black against white, black against Mexican. That's the money. Canelo, that's where the money's at, baby.
I know that. But what I'm saying is that was a huge fight. But at the end of the day, it's something on the line. It ain't just for money. How many people you know in the history of boxing, in our era, from the 70s to today, that would go from 147 rather, and go up and fight Marvin Hagler?
Let me correct you with something, brother. I respect you. We're friends. We're gonna stay friends. But don't think for a second that he knew he could beat Canelo.
Oh, I knew he could beat him.
But don't think for a second that the reason they fought was because of that money.
Well, everybody fighting for money, but what I'm saying is legacy.
But Boots, can he
no,
do the Boots?
You missing what I'm talking about. How many people at 147 would go up and fight Canelo at 60? Because there's a zillion out there that could have did it. You think Boots would have did it? Huh?
He's not a small guy, though.
But the guy came from 135.
Yeah, but he's comfortable in that weight. It's not a struggle for him to make that weight to fight Canelo.
Well, I know that, but what I'm saying is I'm talking about a skill level. You still a smaller man. Now, Canelo might be a heavier guy, but I don't think he was a stronger guy. You got to realize Terrence Crawford has a wrestling background.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yep.
The guy had a wrestling background. So you ever seen nobody's just, those guys might not be heavy, but they're strong as hell because they always got a grip all the time, which makes your muscles stronger. That's why you see everybody thought Spence was bigger than him, but in actuality, he was bigger than Spence.
Yeah, but he'd have to fight 3 Boots, maybe 3, maybe 4. He'd have to have 4 fights to make the kind of money he made with Canelo.
Oh, I know that. I'm not disputing the money. The only thing I'm disputing is you saying that the only reason he did it was for the money. That's what I'm disputing. I'm not going to put my life on the line to get fucking beat up. I'm not. The only way I'm gonna put my life on the line and do this because I know I can beat this guy. Like he said, as soon as he put his name on the contract, I know it, because he can't deal with that style. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, he get hit with the big power and blah blah blah." Who got hit with the big power? It wasn't Crawford. It was Canelo.
Yeah, but if it was Boots, let's see. Get in the room with Boots. I'm getting hit. I might even get beat.
Boots wouldn't go 5 rounds with this dude, bro. Okay, hold on a second. Name me one top guy Boots done fought. I'm just asking a question. I'm just asking a question. Name me one top guy Boots done fought at 47 or 54.
Boots is coming up though, isn't he?
I'm just asking a question. You brought him up. Asked him what he would do against Crawford. Name me. We talking about Crawford is a savant. I'm just talking about a top guy.
I'll show you some highlights of that fight when he fought that Russian.
Okay, but that Russian had already been knocked out by Terence Crawford. Same guy.
Horrible again? Yeah, he won a unanimous decision. But, you know, Stevie Ray,
I'm just asking a question.
That fight's a draw.
Boots Ennis.
Win that fight.
Huh? No, the guy I'm talking about, Boots knocked him out. The guy I'm talking about. He done fought a couple of those Soviet guys.
Mazurov guy that Crawford fought. That's not a savant.
No. I'm talking about the guy I'm talking about. Crawford fought him before Mazurov. That guy also fought Boots. I can't think of his name now.
Crawford, what do you think this Boots guy can do? Yes, he hasn't fought the big names, but he'll fight a Crawford.
Well, based on what? See, you got to have some kind of analysis to prove a point, to even put a point out there. Anybody can say somebody will do good against somebody based on what, though? You have no data other than your emotions.
You need only look at how the guy fights in the ring. I mean,
dog.
He's undefeated.
Dog. Right? Really? How many guys, like I say, the guy you talking about that he went the distance when he looked like crap. Man, come on. What would Terence Crawford do to that dude? Still, Boots ain't, I'll answer the question for you. This guy ain't fought nobody. And in the boxing world, you're telling me that you get a shot at the champ and you ain't never beat nobody? That don't work.
There's a lot of guys staying away from this guy.
Be that as it may, you still got to have a resume to get a job. How many people gonna apply to be a crew chief for you or your brother and they don't have a resume? So you're just gonna hire him because he speaks well?
Once in a while, you get that guy that sneaks through that hasn't fought big names.
I'm talking. Well, who?
And he'll be the guy.
No, he might, but he doesn't fight the top guy.
Yeah, but he's not. I mean, there's a lot of.
He doesn't fight the top. He will fight a known competitor. But you got to beat somebody to get in the ring with this Mr. Somebody.
Yeah, but a lot of guys would rather fight some bum than Boots.
That's true.
Good.
But at the end of the day, just because you look good against inferior competition, you don't. Terence Crawford has went on record and said we offered to fight this guy 2 or 3 times and they didn't want to fight us. The face of boxing, now they want to fight him. Now how that work?
Well, I didn't know that. I'm just saying that Boots is good.
And I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's not. Everybody we talking about is good, but it's levels to this stuff. Until you get in the ring with a real master, like that movie, The Karate Kid, a real master, then you really don't know how good you really are until you face it.
I'm giving it to Crawford. I'm just.
Oh, that wouldn't even be a fight, man. This dude ain't never. He's not even ready for the top guy because you ain't even got to the next level yet. That's why everybody talking about Boots now. Well, you want Terrence Crawford to come back down to 54
Oh
after I've
my
been up to
God.
68?
Now he might be ready for Freddie now.
Huh?
I said maybe Boots felt. I don't know why he would decline that fight. Maybe
No. Are you going? Were you talking about Crawford declining? Because you ain't going to draw no money. Nobody knows you.
No, I thought you said the Boots declined to fight.
No, he didn't. That was back when Terrence and him was at the same weight. They wanted to fight Boots before they fought Errol Spence because they thought they wasn't going to get the Errol Spence fight.
Yeah.
And they turned it down. But then him and Spence got together. Him and Spence got together and made the fight themselves. So one took this much money. That only thing it was money. Both of those guys are dogs. They wanted to fight each other. They've been looking at each other across the fence forever. Finally, we got in the ring. Everybody said the same thing. I was the only person that I knew that picked Crawford. I said it's a 50-50 fight, but if I got a bet on it, I'm going with Crawford. Because this is the thing about Spence. He only knows how to fight one way. Same thing with Canelo. Same thing with a whole bunch of these guys. Same thing with Mike Tyson. Same thing with a whole bunch of these guys. They only know how to fight one way. They do not make adjustments. They do not make adjustments on the run.
$100 if Gervonta and if Pitbull fight again. I'm taking Pitbull for the W.
Okay. Now I seen Pitbull. Who was that kid that got out there and beat Pitbull up? Do you remember that?
Oh, I know who it was.
What's his name?
It was Fernando.
I think he was out of that New York area, wasn't he?
No, he's from the Northern California.
Oh, he's out of California.
Yeah.
I knew he's from the States. El Rayo
is who beat him.
Okay. Now, why didn't they do a rematch?
What's that?
Why didn't they do a rematch? Because Pitbull moved up to 40?
I don't know, but Pitbull probably didn't want that guy's style.
Yeah.
He knew how to beat Pitbull.
Boy, that was a good fight. But that is what I'm talking about when I talk about fighters that can't make adjustments.
I know. It's tough. It's kind of like Ali and Foreman. You saw
Right.
what he did to Foreman?
Right.
Why did he have a tough time? Why did he have a tough time with Frazier, yet Foreman? So it's like the old saying goes, styles make fights. But
especially at the highest level of boxing.
yeah, Pitbull, Gervonta, Stevie Ray, if you want some of that action, send me a text. You're on.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I think you're trying to catch me off guard. I think you're trying to catch me with my guard down because you know as well as I do, Tank been through some stuff in the last couple of years, bro. And you're hoping that Tank is not mentally there. You're thinking that Tank still got them handcuffs on from when the policeman throwed him in the clink a couple of times, and in front of that judge, for
The only reason I want to go with the 100 because I believe that Pitbull was close to beating him the first time. So I think
you know
what I
something.
liked about what made Gervonta Davis a good fighter and exciting to watch was he would get in there and fight.
That's true.
He wasn't a Shakur, because you got to admit the guy's still boring.
Yeah, that's true.
Still a boring fighter. There is something that Rolly Romero is right about him.
Well, I tell you what.
Right now.
That's who I would want to see get in the ring with him.
Oh, you're right. I mean, Shakur.
I would love to see Rolly Romero get in the ring with Shakur, and you're going to see the same thing. Because we seen Pitbull. You seen Pitbull almost beat him into unconsciousness.
You're right, but he's right about one thing: that boring fighter. He's not a household name.
So was Mayweather. That's what everybody bitches about Mayweather about forever. He's so boring. He does nothing but stick, one punch, hold, move, run. but he wins the fights. I can't get mad at him for that, but he's a boring fighter. That's why when I was talking about going into an African-American barbershop, they don't talk about Floyd Mayweather, bro. Now the new barbershops, today's world might talk about it because they're talking about what you and I talking about, the flash, the dash, and the undefeated record. But they don't talk about fights. Just like you was talking about Ali Frazier, just like you was talking about Ali Foreman, just like you was talking about Ali Norton, and all these other fights. You still remember the fights, not just a fight took place. If somebody out there that's listening right now can tell me what happened when him and Pacquiao fought each other, you can't, unless you go back and look at it on YouTube, you'll never remember it. You want to forget it more than you remember it. Good fights, you will never forget. They will be etched in your mind for the rest of your life. Believe me, and Tony knows too. When you see high-level competition, tick for tat, and two men that's ready to die to win this fight, it'll never leave your brain. But when you see something, it's like, oh man, come on, somebody do something. Automatically your brain shuts off. That's what entertainment does for the human mind, and that's why people will pay their last money to see good entertainment. That's why people will always be at the drag racing events, and that's why people will be paying good money to see NHRA drag racing with my man, two-time NHRA champion, a Mr. Tony Petrigon, super athlete, superhuman guy, and one of the best race drivers you will ever see.
Stevie Ray, thank you, man. We got the weekend off. Tune in next weekend, a week and a half from now in Phoenix, Arizona. The temperature's going to be 103 degrees.
Oh, that ain't nothing. That's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat, but it's going to increase the track temperature. These cars are
that's true.
To get that kind of horsepower on an ice skating rink. So,
well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my man, Mr. Tony Petrigon. This is the deal. I'm looking for your brother. You let him know that. I'm looking for him. And I don't want to hear no excuses. I don't want to hear no excuses about he at the soapbox races with his girlfriend. We're going to hook up. And hey, man, if you're in town, I'm going to invite you out to the convention, man. You can meet some of the guys.
I'll be there. If it's an off weekend, I'll be there, Stevie Ray.
Okay, brother. I appreciate it, man. You be up, brother.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Peace. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we went longer than we thought we were going to go. Mr. Producer, I thought you and I talked about the show not going as long as it went tonight. I thought you were going to make sure it didn't happen, man. I'm looking at 2 hours and 29 minutes right now.
Check your messages. For the love of God, man, I was ready to know. We are over an hour.
I know, man, but there's nothing I can do, man. It was good conversation. Hold on a second.
Oh, shut that phone
I'm
down.
blaming you, man. You supposed to send me a message or something.
No.
Straight shoot, Stevie Ray. Who am I talking to?
I sent you email. I sent
Matthew, how's it going?
Who is this?
Matthew.
Hey, what's up, brother? What's up?
Oh, I had a quick question. I know you know, I'm late to the show. I'm very late to the show. I had work late, so
that's all good.
I've been online for a while. But I was wondering if you had got a chance to keep up with Bam Adebayo getting 83 points tonight.
What?
Bam Adebayo scored 83 points against the Washington Wizards tonight.
Did they have their backups in?
Well, Trae Young wasn't in, but I don't know who else they had in. I looked up, you know.
No, man. I'm gonna check it out after I finish the show, man. No, I didn't even get nothing like that come up over my phone. But then again, I didn't really check my phone. But no, man, that's crazy.
83 points. So but I also want to add, are you going to go back to having weekly shows now?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, we're going back. And matter of fact, Matter of fact, me and Mr. Producer are working on a new show that we're not finished with yet, but we're putting it together. So we're going to be doing another
Get off
show,
the phone.
maybe once every
live
other
here,
week or
man.
something like that. That's
We
okay.
are overtime.
You know what I'm saying?
The work outfit.
Yeah. So we got a lot of stuff in the works, man, as of right now. And we'll let you guys know when we if we come out or when we come out. How about that?
Okay. That'll
You know what
work.
I'm saying? Well, let me ask you something while I got you on the phone. When did you start listening to the show tonight?
I got it maybe the last 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let me ask you something. This is something I've been going round and round with guys on our social media. And I know you probably heard this before. I heard people talking about this before. That Michael Jordan, if he played today, would average 40, 50 points a game. What do you think about that?
No. And I love my Jordan, but 40, 50 points is outrageous.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think people get this from? Well, let me ask you, what do you think people get this from? And after this, I'll ask you something else.
Yes, sir.
What do you think people get this notion that a man from the 80s and 90s can average 40, 50 points a game in today's game?
I have no idea, but everything goes forward. It doesn't go back.
Oh, brother, you took the words right out of my mouth. Why is it that only basketball cannot move forward organically like every other sport?
Yeah.
I just got through talking to Cruz 43 miles an hour.
Wow.
30 years ago.
Right.
Do you know what the fastest time was back then? They were barely getting out of the fives back then. It was like in the high fours.
Right.
Okay. Top speed. First person to hit 300 was Kenny Bernstein back in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
Here we are, 30 years later, they had damn near 345. But guess what? Kenny did it in the quarter mile. These guys today are doing it in the 1,000 feet. A quarter mile is 1,320 feet. The guys today are just going 1,000 feet. So they're shortening the track by 320 feet. Is that crazy? What would that car have done in a quarter of a mile?
Right.
350?
Yeah.
So why is it I'm just making a comparison. Why is it in every sport, everything moves forward except for basketball? Why do you think that is?
People want to hold on to, and I'm guilty of this as well. People want to hold on to what was important to them during their formative years, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, if you grew up watching Michael Jordan and he was an inspiration for you, or
Right.
players like Barry Bonds, or players like athletes like Roy Jones, or whatever the case may be, that's going to hold a special place to you. You might want to argue blue in the face over this because that was important to you during your formative years growing up. But, we all have to be honest and be open to everything changes, everything improves, everything moves forward. Things that athletes weren't able to do in the 80s and the 90s, they're able to do now. It's only going to keep improving. And that's just the way everything is. You look at Jesse Owens in the 30s and 40s. You look at Usain Bolt in 2008, 2012, 2016. He's blown those times out the water. And that's just the way things are. I love
Right.
Michael Jordan, thinking to watch him, while my mom told me to go sleep and all that stuff, but I don't see 40 or 50 points from anyone in any era being able to do it now.
Well, this is my thing. It's one thing when people hold on to yesterday when it comes to a player, okay?
Yes, sir.
It's another thing when you hold on to yesterday when you're talking about the overall totality of a sport.
That's true.
You got so many athletic. Look at the dunk contest back when Michael Jordan them did it.
Right.
Now look at the dunk contest with these kids today. It ain't no comparison.
Right.
Bro.
It's no prepared.
What I'm talking about is the athleticism. The athleticism does not slow down.
He goes forward.
It goes forward. And not only that, the creativity. So what I'm saying today is if you took a guy in today's game, let me take somebody. I ain't gonna take LeBron, that's too easy. If you took a guy like,
Giannis. What's that Giannis?
Nah, he too big too. Now, can you see Giannis going up against Bill Cartwright? Are you kidding me, bro?
Right.
Did you see
I mean, really, no.
alive?
Huh?
Did you see we are still alive? And that we are way over time.
I haven't gotten a chance to talk since the end of the football season, but what do you think about the coach, Mike Tomlin, stepping down from the Steelers? I don't know if you talked about it.
Yeah, I talked about that for about 30, 40 minutes tonight with Tony. And
Okay.
and you know, my whole outlook was, well, I'll tell you what, man, I'll talk about it next time you come on and remind me, because we got to get ready to get out of here because we'll be talking for another 15 minutes. All right.
Okay, that'll work.
All right, brother. Appreciate you calling in, man. Peace. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get ready to get out of here. Mr. Producer, I introduce him to you, all you guys tonight. Appreciate everybody rocking with the show, man. But we're going to have to get out of here. See you later, Mr. Producer. We're going to get ready to get out of here, man. I appreciate everybody rocking with us tonight. We'll be back next week, man. Hopefully, we'll be ironed out some of the problems. I'm sorry Mr. Petragon was not here, but I do appreciate his brother coming on and having a long conversation with us on the show, man, because it went longer than we thought it was. But at the end of the day, I see you, and I wouldn't want to be you, and always be one. Peace. Okay, we're out.
Perfect.
We're out. In the
Okay.
stream. Yeah, we're out. I think it was. Hold on. No, you might have to edit that out.
Yeah.
It's ended now. Yeah, outro.
Okay.
Yeah, it's out. It's out now. Me and you at the end. You might have to edit that out right after the outro.
I will.
Sorry we went so long, man, but that's how it goes, man. It's organic.
Yeah.
Damn, it said in. I think we in